Welcome back. I think this is my third or fourth time going through a game between grandmasters. The idea is for me to try to understand why they made the moves that they made and hopefully learn from it. I chose this game because it was played with a d4 opening that is, at least the first several moves were similar to games that I've played, and hopefully it will help me in my journey. And hopefully you'll learn something too, or at least enjoy my reactions. All right, now this game was from this morning. It was finished today. I'm recording this on July 4th, 2022. The game was played in the last round of the 2022 FIDE Candidates Tournament, where the winner had already been decided. Jan Nepomniachtchi, is that right? And these two were in second place and third place. HIkaru had a very tenuous tie on second place in the tournament, and Ding was half a point behind. So if HIkaru Nakamura won this game, he would be in clear second place, and if he drew this, he would be in second place at the end. But if Ding won, he would be in second place. And that matters this year because Magnus Carlsen has said he might not play or defend his world championship title against Jan Nepomniachtchi again. And in that case, it would be Jan Nepomniachtchi versus the winner of this game. So anyway, I chose this one because I watched it live, partially, and also because it opened with a d4 opening that's very similar to what I play. They played d4 and knight f6, which I have seen hundreds of times in my own games, so I completely understand these moves. Surely you do too. This, tries to stake some claim on the center as well as this knight move. Very often, the next move is c4. I tend to play knight to f3 first, but maybe I should start playing c4 first. I don't know. That seems to be what most of the master players do. But this is the Indian game so far, according to the opening database. The East Indian Defense, according to chess.com. This is what I play as black against d4 and c4. The idea is you can bring this bishop here for a check if you want to, or if this knight moves here, you're pinning that knight, as well as preparing to play sometime in the future d5, and this e6 push defends d5. So I do understand those parts. Knight to f3. Okay, so here it doesn't matter, I guess, if this is what you're going to end up with. I said I usually play knight to f3 first, and then this. So if you end up with the black having played that, then it doesn't matter what order you played these two moves in. You get the same exact position. Okay. Now, I think what I usually see here is the bishop move first. Although sometimes I see d5 here, and that's what happens, which transposes this into the Queen's Gambit declined. You can't see the opening listed there, but here it's still called the Indian game, East Indian anti-Nimzo defense or something. But once you've played that, now it's the Queen's Gambit declined, as if black had played this first. Right after you played d4, they played d5, and then you played c4, and then they played here, and then you both put your knights out. Okay, I do understand that because, again, I play d4 openings. I'm not sure why Stockfish says that's the best move. I guess because if you take it, they can take back. But to me, it looks like you're losing a center pawn. Even if they can take back with the pawn or the knight, after you take, you've given up a flank pawn and still have two center pawns. So again, I'm not sure exactly why d5 is the best move here. It may just be that if you do make that trade, black still has a pretty strong tie on the center. And very often here, knight to c3 is what I play. Although the computer is saying g3 is best, I guess wouldn't that be a Catalan? Is that what that's called? If you play that? Queen's Gambit declined Catalan. Okay. Just making sure I knew, because I don't ever play that, because I don't understand that position yet. I have not studied that at all. E3, I noticed, is one of the top moves. Stockfish has moved its order around a little bit. I don't know if you noticed that. Before I moved this and moved it back, G3 was the top move, but now knight to C3 is the top move. So Stockfish doesn't always know, especially during the openings. But I think here I usually play one of those two moves, which both look okay according to the engine. And I have reached personally this position many times. This is the Queen's Gambit declined 3 knights defense or 3 knights system, 3 knights variation. All right. And again, we're putting more pressure on this pawn. We're, these knights control various center squares. We're occupying a center square, and black is trying to stake the same claims. Here, I have seen c3 at this point. I mean c6 at this point. I have seen bishop to b4 at this point, pinning the knight. And I've seen c5. But c5 is not listed among the top 3 Stockfish moves, although we do know that the engines are weak in openings. It's later on when they tend to become much stronger. I'm trying to think if I've seen anything else at this point, but let's see what HIkaru played was c5. Okay, I've seen this several times. In fact, I saw this, pretty sure this exact position just a couple of days ago in one of my games. And I haven't looked at the engine yet, but I'm looking at the board, and I'm pretty sure that afterwards what Stockfish said is I should take this pawn. Is that what it's saying? Yes, okay, I remember that. But I did something else. I think what I played here, I think I played e3 at this point, which is the second best move. So, not too bad. So we should take this, and then they would take back. Okay. But I think if you took that, why wouldn't they take that? I'm not sure. I really don't know. But Liren played e3. Okay. Played the exact same thing as me. So I don't feel so bad, so poor at this moment. Oh, we'll get to the point where I have no idea what's going on. Don't worry. Sorry, I bumped the mic. Look at that. 0.08. Just a second ago, it said if you played e3, it was plus 30. Is it not saying that now? Okay, now it's still thinking. It's still saying that's the best move, and that's plus 30. But now, yeah, earlier, just a second ago, one was plus 39 and one was plus 30.37. But now e3 is devalued after you played it and then undid it. That's just so strange how Stockfish does that. And I know it's only a difference of small amounts, but still. That's still the best move, and he played this. But now the evaluation is leaning toward black. It's getting very close to equality, at least according to the computer. And again, that's what I played in my game. And I am trying to remember now what my opponent did, but I honestly can't. It seems like they just captured here. But I can't remember. What did Nakamura do? He moved knight to c6, which seems like a reasonable move, but this is entirely symmetrical on both sides. And I don't think I have reached this exact position before. I think in all the games where I've gotten these 4 pawns all facing each other right there on the DNC files, I think if I haven't captured one of them, my opponent has captured one of them. Or sometimes they try to stick a knight in here. I've had that. Let's back up one. I've had a lot of opponents try to stick this knight in here early, which is strange to me because they haven't developed any other pieces yet. Because, like all of you, I've been taught to develop your pieces and prepare your position before you begin attacking. A lot of opponents at my level try to start attacking right now. If you take it, they'll take back, and then you have to move this knight somewhere. And usually it has to go back here, which blocks in this bishop, and that's frustrating. And then they still have this pawn ready to take a center pawn. I don't know what the best refutation to that is. But regardless, HIkaru played knight to c6, which makes sense. Completely symmetrical, and now we're out of my comfort zone. And for some reason now, well, yeah, that's still his best move. Does he play it now? No, I'm looking at the move list. He plays a3. Which makes sense. This knight has just moved here. It's possible it might be thinking of setting up shop down here, although I don't know where it would go from there. If it did come in and then you played a3, then what's the knight going to do? Just go back? So a3 to me would have been better before this pawn got in the way of the bishop. I sometimes play a3 much earlier than this, even before getting the c pawn out. I've done this just to avoid these bishop complications over here on b4. But anyway, that's what Liren plays here. Also, okay, I get it too. He may also be preparing b4 to chip away at that pawn. And now it says black's best move is to take the c pawn, which again is strange because you're getting rid of one of your own center pawns by pushing it to the flank, doubling your c pawns. But then, I guess there's still tension between these two, so it may not matter. Is that what HIkaru played? It is. Okay. And then, of course, the only good move here is to take that pawn back. Now, your bishop gets there, so that's what Ding does. And now we've developed most of our pieces, and because this bishop has moved, we're now prepared to castle. I understand all this so far. And black is only slightly behind. They can move this at any time and prepare to castle. But it says their best move is this, probably preparing b5 is my guess. Because I don't think the bishop is intending to go here in this position. I know in some positions where you have that knight and the king on the same diagonal, you want to go there. Well, obviously the Ruy Lopez. But I don't know that I would want to move it there at this point. But anyway, that's what the computer is saying. What did HIkaru play? That's what he played. All right. So they have, I don't know, for all I know, both of these men have memorized this line out because we're only on move 7. They probably have memorized this far. So many of these games, it seems like they've memorized out to move 20 or something, various branches and lines. So bishop to a2 is what Stockfish is suggesting, to drop this back. Okay, that would be another reason for playing a3. I've done that in a few times, but usually I've done that when the opponent is about to threaten. But here he played it before that was threatened. And now Stockfish says, go ahead and put the bishop back here. And from there, it's guarding one of the two long light square diagonals. These two diagonals of light squares are about the same length. And from here, you're basically pointing at the spot where the king is going to castle to. So that makes sense to me. Is that what Ding played? No, Ding played the third best move, which is dropping it in here, which is the other of those two long diagonals. This time pointing at this h7 square rather than pointing at where the king will end up. Okay. Also, it helps control a little bit of the center, I guess. Although it's not going to stop this pawn. If HIkaru does play b5, as it looked like a6 threatened, then this pawn will be able to play c4, I'm guessing. And now it says slightly better move is this, but HIkaru plays b5, which we were just talking about, probably intending to play here. I don't think he's intending to push b4, although I don't know, because there could be a capture, and then you have to move the knight. I assume the plan is here, to put pressure into the heart of White's territory. And now Ding should take here. Is that what he played? Yes. Okay. And just as when the other side took our c-pawn, the best move is for the bishop to take back, and that's what HIkaru does, so we understand these. And now Ding plays b4 to prevent any possibility of b5. So these pawns are basically locked for the rest of the game unless one player or the other is able to manage a pawn break with, probably with the help of some pieces. Because right now, if you play this and they take and you capture back, you've just got a rook in trouble and the bishop's going to come after it. And you've also cleared a path for black's pawn. So right now, these pawns basically stay locked. Bishop to e7 is the best move for black, and that's what he plays. Okay, do you see that? Queen to e2? its Stockfish rates that slightly higher than castling. Very slightly. About the same. And that might change if we play one of those moves and then back up. It might have a different answer. But I see this all the time in my games. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos. When I'm running the evaluation afterwards, it'll say queen to e2. And I don't know what that does. Because right now you can castle. That's what the point of getting these two pieces out of the way was so you can castle. The bishop is and the knight are both already guarded by the queen from where it sits. So I don't see how putting the queen here to, I mean, it still just protects those two pieces. I'm not sure how that's a better spot for it. I don't understand. I have very often played queen to c2 here, which lines up these two pieces on this long diagonal here in case the king castles. You can't do it right now because the knight's sitting there protecting h7, but it's an idea. It's a good thing to have ready when you can. But I don't understand e2. If one of you understands why I get this suggestion from the computer all the time, and not always, I mean, I don't think I've ever reached this exact position, but very similar positions in d4 openings, it suggests this all the time. Maybe one of these days when I get to, what are we on, move 10? I'll just put it there and see if that helps me later. Maybe it's to get it out of this because your bishop's kind of pinned right now. At least in this position. Because right now, you can't move this bishop. I mean, you could. You could move it. But both of these are protected. If either player wants a trade, they could do it. But that might not always be the case. You might have to move this piece and then later have to move this piece and then you're in trouble or something. Maybe that's what it is. I really don't know. But Ding castled here. And I am not sure what I would do as black, although since you have moved the b-pawn, putting the bishop on b7 makes some sense. Castling makes sense. And it looks like Stockfish says castling is the best. And the bishop is the third best. Well, the first one was knight to b8. Really? That's the second best move for black right now, according to Stockfish, is to put the knight back on its home square. Is it in trouble right now? I don't understand that. But HIkaru played that move, which was the first one that I thought of, but not Stockfish's favorite. Okay, and again, computer suggesting queen to e2. Far better than any of the other possibilities. This is second, and h3 is third. h3, I suppose, prevents the knight from coming in here, if it were going to. It also gives our knight a place to retreat. Maybe. Not entirely sure. But queen to e2, have no idea. Can't think of a reason for that. Ding plays, put the bishop on there. So basically entirely symmetrical. So right now, if it were his turn and he pulled this bishop back, everything would be symmetrical. Or if HIkaru played here, it would be completely symmetrical. But HIkaru's best move is to castle, and that's what he does. And now, oh, it wouldn't have been symmetrical because he hadn't castled yet. Okay. Knight to e4. Queen to b1. Okay, see, queen to b1 I do get. That's very similar to my queen to c2 suggestion from earlier. Except that's not suggested at all. But queen to b1 is suggested, and I get that because it lines up this battery. So this knight basically then is stuck defending h7 because the queen and bishop are preparing to go at least crack the king side. But knight to e4. Oh no, wrong knight. That's e5. Knight to e4 right here. Okay. I get that it challenges that knight, but your queen's not on that diagonal yet. Okay, did he play that? That's what he played. Okay. And honestly, I don't know if you take it or not. It says it's all right to take it, or you can get your rook to the open file. There are currently 2 open files on the board. You have queens on one of them. Getting the rook to the other one makes sense. But HIkaru took the knight, which I suppose you have to take back. Is that why it was wanting to move the queen first? But your queen's protected. If they want to trade queens, it's not. I don't think it's going to hurt anybody. But yeah, you take back with the bishop, which is what he did. And my son right now would take this. I know that. Every time there's an opportunity to trade queens, even if he's behind, he will trade queens. I think it's because that way he doesn't have to worry about his opponent having a queen. Which, I mean, it's a strategy, and it works for him sometimes. But the best move is knight to a5. Is that correct? Am I reading that right? What would that do? Why is that Stockfish's #1 move? Does anybody know? Because it looks like you just lose a knight. Okay, you would be opening up the discovery here between these two bishops. Okay, I get that. Now, you can't just take the knight because your bishop's hanging. So you'd have to take the bishop, and then the knight would take the bishop back. Okay, so that's what knight to a5 does. Okay, Stockfish was suggesting that as its top move. It's still suggesting that as the top move. But that, okay, so basically, I don't know that it forces a bishop trade, but it sure encourages one. But HIkaru did not play that. He played the next best move, which was f5. Forcing the bishop to go back. I don't know where it's best to go back to. I do know that when you move that pawn, this one is left undefended. And that has come in handy for me in a couple of games. Now, it can't come in handy in this position exactly unless you're able to, get this bishop back here where it can then point that way. So, okay, that's why bishop to b1 is one of the suggested moves, but c2 is also fine. Or taking the knight is okay. Now, which one did he choose? He chose to go all the way back. Okay, because I did just mention, when you move this f-pawn, now nothing's defending that. So I think it makes sense to try to wrap around here and aim that way. But it depends on what the other player does. And here, HIkaru decides to trade queens. You obviously have to take back. Look at that. Stockfish's #2 move is to protect that pawn. Wow. Whoops. Most people I have played would not think of that. But that makes a lot of sense. We've just been talking about this pawn, this weakness here, this undefended weakness. I see in the move list, which I don't have room on my screen to show the move list as well as the engine in my title and all this other stuff, but that's not what HIkaru played, but I'm just looking at Stockfish's suggestion. That's pretty awesome. The other thing is, I'm guessing you would want to get control, because you've lost control of the open file at this point. However, because of this bishop move that we made earlier, Ding's rooks aren't connected anymore. So I think that is why Stockfish's first move, one of the two moves that maintain equality, is to put the rook there. And that's what HIkaru played. And now you can reconnect your rooks by playing bishop to a2, which, again, we have been talking about that pawn. And also because of this rook challenge, you'd reconnect your rooks with that move. Or it says this is fine too. So, although, I would prefer this one. But I don't think it would be a good idea to take here, because they would take back, and then black would have almost undisputed control of this center file. But anyway, it looks like Ding played that, going after that pawn, and now HIkaru plays king to f7. Again, makes a lot of sense. Kind of defeats the purpose of castling if you have to put your king here, I guess. But that's the way the game turned out, and Stockfish says you're equal. I don't know I'm trying not to look at the engine right now. I just looked at the numbers to make sure that we're equal. I don't remember what it said about the best move here. I'm trying to think what I would play in this situation. I think some people that I have played against would play here, but that just trades off. I think that works out better for white. You end up with a bishop right there in the middle. But then, I don't know, because you've also got this tension here, and I don't know are you supposed to do something about that now? No, you are not. Okay, well, Stockfish says h4 is the best move, or one of several moves that maintain equality, and that's what Ding played. That is not a move I would have thought of. h4. What in the world does that do? I mean, it's protected by the knight, right? The knight's protecting the h4 square, so we don't have to worry about the bishop capturing or anything. I suppose because all of black's pieces are over there, this is the only one that's not fully on that left half of the board. It makes sense to try to start attacking here on this side, on the king side. You've got both bishops coming through this way. You've got a knight here that can hop in at a moment's notice, and once the h4 pawn is there, the knight can hop in. Okay, makes sense. h6 is what Stockfish says is the best response, which I assume prepares g5, and it prevents the knight from hopping in. Okay, I get that. Is that what HIkaru played? Yes. All right. Now, not sure. Getting rid of the tension. Okay. But we're not really attacking the knight because it's defended and could, I assume, be double defended if it needed to be. But I guess he just wanted to keep both rooks and didn't want to trade them off and let black have that control. Because backing up one move, even if he didn't make the first move, but HIkaru took and he took, then he can bring this rook over there, and it's defended by both of these pieces, and basically can force the rooks off the board. So I don't know, but Stockfish says that's the best move. So don't know. I don't know here. Was that listed as one of the best moves? Bishop to d6? Yes, it was the third move listed there. Okay. Actually, rook to d6 was the top move, and I don't understand that. I don't understand what rook to d6 would do. Because it looks like then you could check. I mean, obviously the king could just move out of check. But probably not there because there would be a discovery, right? So if the rook was on d6 and you checked here and the knight captured your knight, then you would capture back and that bishop would be pointing at the rook. And then the rook would need to move again, I think. But that's probably bad because, as you can see right after rook d6 up there, none of the things I said are part of that suggested line. But bishop to d6 was one of the better moves. And let's see, rook to e1. Wait, didn't we just move this rook? We just moved this rook. But now Stockfish wants to put it back. That was the top move when we put it there. And now Stockfish says, you know what? What if it was on e1? Two moves or move ago, it didn't want it on d1. It wanted it on c1. Yeah, see, now I told you we would get to this point. We are now beyond the point at which I understand what's going on. Well beyond. Now, a lot of these moves, once I see what it does or what it prevents or what it prepares, then I understand it. But here, why in the world? You have it on one of the open files. You literally just put it there. But the computer thinks that's better. Computer also likes h5 here, which I guess I see a little bit because it prevents any g-pawn movement here. It doesn't prevent it, but it it discourages it strongly. And also, it keeps the king from trying to escape this way, I guess. And possibly prepares... not now, obviously. Black is controlling that square twice, but eventually maybe being able to get the knight in there, protected by the h-pawn, possibly. Bishop to d4. That's Stockfish's third suggestion, which looks like not only can it just be taken here, and do you really want to trade off a bishop for a knight at this point? But Stockfish does. And Stockfish says they wouldn't take it. I don't know about that. After all the teaching we've been given about these strong bishops here, look at that, controlling this entire diagonal. Both of these bishops, and Stockfish wants to put it there, let them have a chance to take it. I don't understand that either. I guess Ding didn't understand either of those because what he played was that. Which I guess I understand in a way. Maybe the reason for putting this bishop here was to try to work it around here, and that bishop was undefended, and you could force a... No, I was going to say force a bishop trade, but no, we have two pieces guarding that square. I have no idea. But, I mean, the bishop wasn't guarded, and now it is. So maybe he's thinking about doubling up the rooks here and coming this way. HIkaru does not play a5, which is the top suggestion. He does not play g6 or rook a to c8. He plays knight to e7. What is he looking for? Maybe one of you mild-mannered experts can help me explain some of this one too. The only thing I see that does, I mean, the knight's not here anymore. It may be, okay, maybe HIkaru thought the same thing I thought. That Ding was trying to double up because he could have won two pieces here. If he did successfully get the rooks doubled while that knight was still there, he would hit it, and hit it again, and he would have gotten both of those pieces for a rook. Maybe that's what HIkaru saw. Also, that move gets it out of the way of this bishop, which I suppose could come in handy, although I don't think you would want to trade it off for this right now. It would double that pawn, but I don't think that's that bad for white, to be honest. I don't know what that was about. Stockfish wasn't really fond of it, but it doesn't appear to be a huge blunder. And Ding here does make the best move, which is to put this knight here. I guess Stockfish was worried about the trade that I just said wasn't a big deal. Okay. Shows how much I know. But we're learning. We're trying to anyway. This square is not attacked by any black piece, and it is protected by the pawn. But everything that it points at is protected right now pretty well. I mean, you know what I'm saying? All those squares black has control of. And I guess it does prevent any rook infiltration here. If this bishop ever goes somewhere or does something... this knight would effectively block the rook, I think. Maybe. Or maybe it's intending to go in there somewhere. Let's see what happens. Bishop to d5 is black's best move, and that's what HIkaru plays. Basically saying these bishops have to come off the board, and now looks like the only good move is to take, so he does. And even I know it would probably be bad to take with this pawn, because then that pawn would be stuck out there by itself instead of working with this one. Yeah, I think you take with the knight, and then black basically has a mirror image to this structure, almost relocking the center again. Even though these aren't pawns here, it's almost like we have a closed center with these two knights, effectively making there's only one open file now. and Ding is in control of it. Except that Stockfish says it's time to do this now. No, sorry, I had the Stockfish says it's time to do this now, which I think was Ding's plan earlier, and Stockfish didn't see it, but now Stockfish says that's the best move, and that's what he did. Yeah, I had the turns mixed up. So he is definitely preparing to come barreling through there. What does HIkaru do about that? He does not play one of those three moves. He plays that. That's interesting. Okay, the blocking this square, that makes sense, but that square was already really blocked by, I mean, these two pieces had that locked down, didn't they? But now that square is really locked down. Nobody's coming to that square. So, but to B3. That's what Stockfish says is the best move, and that's what Ding plays. What in the world does that do? Is it trying to reroute to here? Come over here so you can go up there? Is that what that is? Or here, maybe? I don't know if you'd want to go there. I really don't know what that move does. Because I thought we put it there on purpose to kind of block the center in. But now here, I suppose rerouting there makes some sense. Because if they take, you take, and then you have really gotten control of the C-file. And obviously if they don't take, it's the knight there is threatening the rook. So maybe that's what they're looking at. But now he needs to play that. Or this. Or this. Stockfish's three favorite moves. HIkaru plays bishop back one. Well, when this pawn was moved, there was a knight here. This knight has done some traveling since then. But yeah, that pawn is now undefended. But now don't you just play G3 and defend it? Well, that's what Stockfish says. What does Ding do? He does not defend it. He moves it forward. Which earlier, the computer was saying that was a good move. Again, we're preventing the king from coming here. We're strongly discouraging any G-pawn moves. I guess that makes sense. And I guess protecting it with just by putting it on a square that bishop can't see. Okay. Bishop to f6 is among the top three moves here, and that's what he plays. He's already traded off the light squared bishops, and now he's asking, do you want to trade off the dark squared bishops? And Stockfish says yes. Stockfish says, let's do it. And we would take back, black would take back with the knight. And that would be slightly better for white. What does Ding do? Interesting. He wants to trade bishops in the middle, where he can put his knight back where, okay, maybe that was the reason for putting the knight there. When we moved the knight there so that we can put the bishop here protected by the knight. Also that the knight there prevents H or A5. I'm still trying to figure out some of the moves that happened in the past, but now I'm seeing this here, it not only is it protecting the bishop there, but it's also kind of, controlling that square too. Okay. E5 is the best move. That is what HIkaru plays. Now, do we go here and lock in this chain? No. That's what I would do. It says to put it back. How about that? Or all the way back. That's what Stockfish is saying. Or just a little way back. It really likes this bishop on this long diagonal. It says just keep it on this diagonal and freeze that pawn. Okay, what does he do? Okay, if you watched my video where I was going through the Judith Polgar game, you'll remember these moments where the move that I thought they should play, that's what they played, even if it disagreed with Stockfish. Okay, that helps me. That really helps me that I thought, like, this seems like a good idea. And from here, this bishop's preventing the rook from coming up that way. It's controlling this file, which kind of makes the any king moves awkward. Although I don't know what prevents you just from going back here. Stockfish wants rook a to d8. Okay, they want to double over here. HIkaru plays bishop to d8, which wasn't the best. And now what? What would I do here? I don't know. The computer is saying rook to d1 or rook to d2. Okay, because earlier, remember, it said it wanted HIkaru to play that, and it said, well, he didn't. So now it's time for us to do it. Let's see, did Ding do one? Ding did do one of those moves. Almost a tongue twister there. And now I don't know what I would play if I were black. I might, I don't know. That's not good, because then you've got an isolated pawn over there. Don't know, but I want to keep moving. HIkaru does play the top Stockfish move here, which is to bring this knight back where it protects that rook and offer a rook trade. And Stockfish says, go ahead and take it. That's what Liren does. And we're just going to assume HIkaru took it back. That was the whole reason for moving the knight to that spot. Now I don't know what I would do if I were white. Probably this. Rook to d1. Oh, that's what it says. That's a good idea. Is that what he played? Okay. I'm not completely incapable mentally. Obviously, there's an undefended piece here. That's a good spot where we could check the enemy king. Although it's almost begging that knight to take our bishop at this point. No, because it wouldn't damage our pawn structure. We would take back with the knight. It says to put it back, is what Stockfish says, and that's what HIkaru plays. I don't know what I would play here. Computer wants that or bishop there. One of those two moves. Ding saw one of those two moves because he's a very astute young man. I don't know how old he is. I'm assuming he's about half my age. And now the computer wants knight to g4. And that's what HIkaru played. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what that does. Wait, go back. Why there? Why not? Okay, that's one of the top 3 moves, but I don't understand why that's not better. How do you run into trouble with that? Because if white then tries to attack you, don't you just take him? Oh, okay. I know why this is better. Wow. It doesn't take a grandmaster to see that pawn is under attack and undefended. This defends that pawn. Okay. But now can't you chase that away fairly easily? No. No, you can't. Because if you move this pawn, then that pawn's undefended. And you can't bring your king. Okay. So this is a safe knight for the moment, and it's guarding the e-pawn. I get that. All right. Several moves maintain equality here, including the one that Ding played, which was to bring the bishop back to the spot that it just came from. It went there and it came back. Okay. In fact, it said equality before, but now that we've played it, it says black has a very slight edge, only if they play here, which HIkaru found. Wow. Got a double attack on the f-pawn here. What do you do to stop that? Do you rook it? Here or here? f3. It says go ahead. What? Oh, that's why you brought the bishop back. Oh my goodness. I never would have brought the bishop back for that reason. We brought the bishop back to defend the e-pawn, so now we can play f3. But Ding didn't see that. He checked. And HIkaru played the move that maintains equality, which is g8. And now f3 is not suggested like it was last time. Now g3 is suggested. So we play g3, which sends this bishop back someplace else. Where does it go? No. Look at, oh my goodness. Rook to d8. That's what Stockfish says. You wouldn't take it? Well, because I know that if you took it, they would take back, but aren't you then just left with equality? Completely symmetrical pawns, and both players would have this left. So how would that be better for... Sorry, how would that be better for black? I don't know. But HIkaru played the second best move, which is to get the bishop out of danger, pull it back one. And now, bishop to d6 again. Is that... No. Ding played that. I guess he's thinking we're about to have an endgame, and he's just decided to bring it. Well, he's got control of the open file here, one of the two open files, and he's blocked off the other open file with that bishop and the knight hitting it from behind. So HIkaru cannot get control of the C file, not right now. And since white has control of the D file, I guess it makes sense to start bringing this. That's what he did. And HIkaru played that. Oh, that's a mistake. It's the first mistake of the game. Did Ding do what he's supposed to do? What he is supposed to do now is rook to b7. Which I would never find. What does that even do? And what is this threatening? I really don't know what bishop to d8 was, what HIkaru's plan was. The only thing I can think of is he's thinking of a pawn push here to try to break through. Because we just mentioned that Ding had blocked down the C file with this bishop here. So I guess that, and if you take, he would take and take and take, whoops, and then have control of the A file, but he wouldn't because this bishop is still here with this pawn, and it could just slide back. I don't know what the idea behind that was, but I certainly have no idea what the idea behind this is. And that is what Ding played. Wow. All right. Top Stockfish choice. Top Stockfish choice. Top Stockfish choice. I mean, those kind of make sense to me. And it says he should take back here, which I think most of us would probably do. But he decided not to and just pushed past it, which gave away most of his advantage. But only he still has his advantage unless HIkaru plays f3, which, I mean, that's... You just saw Ding bring his king, right? He looked like he was heading this way. But if you play this, you stop him from going to either of those squares. The king's trapped on the back rank. He has to go a lot further to get around. And if he goes too far, then the knight gets in and hits this. Maybe not yet. We're still guarding that right now. I don't know. But that's what HIkaru had to play. It's not what he played. He played the next best move, which gives the advantage back to Ding Liren. But now it says continue your king's progress. He didn't do that. He played the next one, which is here. Okay. I guess this bishop might have been trying to come around from behind. But he blocks it from that. He didn't do that. That's just what Stockfish is suggesting. What did he do? He played the next best thing, which was rook to e8, which hits this undefended pawn. What can you do about that pawn? Can you do anything about that pawn? No. Wait, has he just lost a pawn? Wait, why can't you defend it here? What am I missing? Why can't you defend the e-pawn with f3? Look at that. That's not even mentioned. Just to give away the e-pawn. Because, right, nothing, we don't have anything protecting that right now. But it says to move king to g2. And that's what he did. Wow. Okay, now it says again, take this. Did he take it? He did not. He played the next move, which is knight to e5. Which I don't understand. Not sure where he's planning on going from there. Maybe this way? To come after the bishop finally? Knight to f5 is Ding's best move, and that is what he plays. Locking his knight in there as long as this pawn survives. And getting it out of this trading danger. But clearly HIkaru had two chances to take that and didn't. So he didn't want it very bad. But Stockfish wants to keep this knight really badly. Okay. So, what does HIkaru play in response? F3 check. That's a mistake. Another mistake. But, I mean, it looks like a decent move, right? It's protected by the knight, but it could have been prevented if he had just done what I said, which was to play F3 ourselves. But for some reason, we weren't supposed to play F3. I don't know why. Back earlier when our knight was over here and could have protected it. But instead they played F3. It's a mistake if we play king to G3, and we do. Ding is no slouch, that's for sure. And he's now got a +3 advantage on move 42. HIkaru plays the best move in the position, I assume going after this pawn, but maybe also... Wait, wasn't the knight there defending this pawn? Can't you just take it now? No, you can't. What in the world? I would lose every one of these games, wouldn't I? Because I would just take this pawn now. That pawn's hanging. This pawn is hanging. That pawn is hanging. And it says his best move is bishop to e7. Okay. He plays bishop to e7. HIkaru goes after this pawn, which he's clearly been after. And now the king takes the pawn. Okay. Okay, I understand that. Preventing the rook from coming here, perhaps. Besides the offering of the bishop trade, it blocks this rook from doing anything here. Now, their best move is to take this pawn. Is that what HIkaru does? He does. King to f4. Okay, Stockfish has decided it is time. The kings need to go further. I don't know exactly what it would do from there, but that's where it's supposed to go. Second best move, G3, and that's what Ding plays. A5. That's what HIkaru needs to play here. He did not play any of those top moves. He played... Oh my goodness. Now look at that. +5. Ding has +5. If he finds bishop to c5. Which he did. And HIkaru does that? Okay. Because the knight was hitting here. I get it. See? And that blocks it. Okay. Knight to e7 check now is the top move. Bishop back to e7 is the next best move. Or f4. Ding plays f3. Okay. I suggested that a long time ago, by the way. And HIkaru plays none of those top 3 moves, but he plays that. I mean, I guess I understand it. Over here, it wasn't doing anything. And here, from here, I guess he can get back to there, possibly. Not if that pawn had been on f4 like Stockfish told Ding to do. Okay, but now we need to play rook to a7. And that is what Ding did. +6. Oh my goodness. Bishop to d2. That's what Stockfish... No, d2 or b2, either one. I have no idea what either one of those moves does. But HIkaru found one of them. Now again, it is asking to go knight to e7 check. Or king to f2, I suppose. Coming after the bishop, I really don't know. Or maybe just making a waiting move. I do know sometimes Stockfish says, hey, we'd rather they moved right now, so do something completely harmless, like move your king back and forth and make them make a decision. That might be it. Or rook captures a6. I think that's what I would do here. That's why I moved my rook there in the first place. And that's what Ding does, that third one. Okay. That makes me feel better. Oh, okay. Another reason to go here was so you could check, and that would have prevented that. Okay, I understand it now. But he gets the check because Ding didn't move his king closer. So now he has to do king to g2, king to f4, king to h2. He's still got a huge advantage. He picks one of those, and knight to g5 needs to happen here. Or king to h8 even. I don't know why king to h8 is suggested, because Ding has showed no interest in this check down here. At least the last two times Stockfish suggested it. What does he play? Okay. Interesting. And now, again, Stockfish wants this. It's saying he's left his king there. Just check it. I don't know why that's great. But because it's clearly he can just get out of check. But anyway, he plays none of those top three moves. He goes back to a7 where he was. I guess he didn't want to check here without two defenders on that square. Maybe, I don't know. This time HIkaru does finally play the Stockfish top suggestion. And finally, Ding checks on e7. The king goes to h8. And then does he check over here? He checks there. And this part I was watching live, and I thought, now they're going to repeat moves. He's going to go back, and he's going to go back. And the king did go back. And Stockfish doesn't want to repeat, which is weird, because a lot of times Stockfish wants to repeat, even when you're ahead. Here it wants king g3. But Ding repeated. And HIkaru repeated. And that's when I remember thinking, oh, wow. They're going to draw, and HIkaru is going to be second place. I didn't know he had +7 at the time, but Ding must have seen something, because here he did not repeat moves for the draw, even though that's the top suggestion from Stockfish. He brought it back this way, coming after the bishop. Bishop escapes. HIkaru goes after it. Ding plays down there. I remember seeing this and thinking, what in the world? Can't he just trap it here? And that's what Ding did. And then I'm like, well, now, like, do you go here? Because this white's knight is guarding those two squares. The rook's guarding these squares. Like, where can you go with it? And he went over there. How can you attack that square? You attack it after you keep the bishop from coming back here. And that's where HIkaru resigned, because now he has nowhere to go with this bishop. The knight, which is the reason he brought it back here in the first place, defends this b-pawn, so the bishop can't take it. And now, we're going to go get the bishop, I assume, because now this bishop keeps it from coming back here. And HIkaru resigned at this point. I remember seeing that part, and I did understand those last couple of moves. But right back there, the computer wanted him to check again. It's still listed as one of the top moves, but man, I would just think if I did that check, he would move and it would be a draw. And you later find out you had +6 and you drew, because you've already repeated that once. So, yeah, Ding pulled out the win and passed HIkaru for second place. But hopefully you got something out of this game. We've gone on for an hour now, and that's just the way these things are. There's a lot to learn in these games. I learned that I'm not doing too poorly on the first 7 to 10 moves. I understood almost all of those. I probably have played a few inaccuracies in that range. It's the middle game where I didn't understand a lot. I didn't understand the queen to e2 suggestions. There were a couple of times where Ding played what I would have played, even though it was different than Stockfish, so that made me feel better. And I think Hikaru, I don't know if he was exhausted, but he put up a good fight to a certain point, but then you saw it just, the advantage just creeping and creeping up toward Ding's favor. But that was this morning. Not by the time you watch this video, because it'll be a day or two from now. But anyway, if you are in the United States and celebrate the 4th of July, Independence Day, I hope you had a fun and safe holiday. And let's keep doing this. Let's keep learning chess. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.